Hello, everybody. Today, I would love to delve into the fascinating topic of ego defense mechanisms. These mechanisms are conscious or unconscious strategies that protect the ego, ourself. It protects from anxiety and internal conflicts by distorting the reality. While they are natural and normal, they can become problematic if overused. By understanding these mechanisms and learning to channel their negative energy, we can achieve significant personal growth and emotional well being. I will explore 25 significant ego defense mechanisms, categorized by their level of consciousness. 7 mechanisms are used consciously, 15 operate at the unconscious level, and 3 function both at conscious and unconscious levels. For each mechanism, I will provide a description followed by a real life example. I will discuss the topic in 2 parts. In this part 1, I will introduce 10 ego defense mechanisms, and in part 2, I'll discuss the remaining 15. Let us dive in. Number 1, repression. It is an unconscious process. Repression involves pushing distressing thoughts, memories, or feelings out of the conscious awareness. It's like your mind's automatic way of hiding things that are too painful to deal with. For an example, a person who endured a traumatic event during childhood might not have any conscious recollection of it. This is because their mind has repressed the memory to shield them from the associated emotional distress. Number 2, suppression. It is a conscious process. Suppression is an effort to put aside or ignore uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. It is a deliberate choice to avoid thinking about something distressing or negative. For example, if you're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation, you might choose to distract yourself by watching a movie or going for a walk, consciously deciding not to dwell on your anxiety. Number 3, projection is unconscious process. Projection is a defense mechanism in which an individual recognizes their unacceptable traits or impulses in someone else to avoid recognizing those traits or impulses in themselves. For example, someone complaining that how someone else is so showy or always needs attention may be doing so to avoid acknowledging they exhibit the same tendencies. Number 4, isolation. Isolation can be both conscious or unconscious, depending on the context and the individual's awareness. Isolation is an ego defense mechanism where an individual separates emotions from thoughts or events. Conscious isolation happens when an individual intentionally opts to withdraw from social interactions. For example, a person might decide to take a break from socializing or attending programs to focus on an important project. Unconscious isolation happens when isolation is driven by underlying psychological factors that the person may not be fully aware of. For an example, a surgeon might perform a complex and emotionally charged operation, such as a life-saving procedure on a child, without allowing themselves to feel the emotional weight of the situation. They focus purely on the technical aspect of the surgery, isolating their emotions to maintain their composure and effectiveness. Number 5, regression. It is an unconscious process. Regression is a defense mechanism where an individual reverts to the behaviors from an earlier stage of development when faced with stress or anxiety. For an example, when overwhelmed by a stressful situation at work, an adult might revert to the childlike behaviors. This can include seeking comfort in activities they enjoyed as a child, such as watching cartoons or cuddling a stuffed animal. They might also turn to their parents for support and companionship. Number 6, internalization. This is also called introjection. Is unconscious process. Internalization is a defense mechanism where a person adapts the ideas, attitudes, or behaviors of other people, often to cope with anxiety or to feel a sense of belonging. As an example, imagine a child who is frequently scolded by the parents for not being neat over time. The child might internalize their parents' critical voices and start to scold themselves for any messiness, even when the parents are not around. This internalized voice becomes part of the child's own self-criticism, reflecting the parents' attitudes. Number 7, sublimation. It is a conscious process. Sublimation is a powerful defense mechanism where unacceptable or harmful impulses are consciously transformed into socially acceptable actions. For example, a teenager experiencing intense anger and aggressive urges might find joining a wrestling team very beneficial. This allows him to channel his emotions into a competitive sport, providing a controlled and socially acceptable outlet for his aggressive impulses. Number 8, intellectualization is a conscious process. Intellectualization is a defense mechanism where a person uses logic and reasoning to avoid confronting emotional distress. For an example, imagine someone who has just been diagnosed with a serious illness. Instead of addressing their fear and anxiety, they might focus on learning everything about the disease, its statistics, and treatment options. By doing so, they avoid dealing with their emotions directly. Number 9, rationalization. It can be a conscious or unconscious process. Rationalization is a defense mechanism where individuals justify their behaviors, thoughts, or feelings with seemingly logical reasons to avoid facing the true, often uncomfortable feelings of guilt or shame. For an example, imagine a student who fails an important exam. Instead of admitting that they did not study enough, they might rationalize their failure by blaming the exam's difficulty or the teacher's unfair grading. By doing so, they protect their self-esteem and avoid facing the uncomfortable truth about their lack of preparation. Number 10, idealization. It can be conscious or unconscious process. Idealization is a defense mechanism where a person attributes excessive positive qualities either to themselves or to others to cope with anxiety or internal conflicts. This often involves perceiving someone as perfect or flawless, which helps to avoid dealing with the complexities or imperfections of that person or relationship. For example, the conscious idealization. People might choose to focus on the positive traits of someone or something, deliberately overlooking flaws to maintain a positive perception. This can be a way to enhance relationship or personal happiness. Example of an unconscious idealization. Imagine a child who looks up to a parent with deep admiration. They might see their parent as a hero, believing they are perfect and can do no wrong. This idealization provides the child with a sense of security and motivation. However, as the child grows older and begins to notice significant flaws in their parent, they may struggle to reconcile these imperfections with their once idealized image. This realization can lead to feelings of disappointment, confusion, or even anger. This is the end of part 1. In my next video, part 2, I will introduce remaining 15 ego defense mechanisms. Please send your questions in the comment box. Subscribe, like or dislike, and share with your friends. I thank you very much for watching. As always, wish you an excellent week ahead. Namaste.